Thank you. Next question is coming from JW. Please state where you're from and ask your question.
Hi, thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. So I am from Boston, Massachusetts. Um, I have my hemoglobin A1C is 5.1, fasting insulin 2.6. I've never been diabetic, but I have unbelievable cravings for sugar, especially candy. And someone has suggested that I take L-glutamate as a way to get rid of those cravings. What do you think about that?
I can't speak to the L-glutamate suggestion, but I'm
Okay.
curious, do you eat a lot of fruit?
I probably don't eat enough. I always have an apple, I have a pear, I have a banana in a smoothie, but that's probably it.
I mean, if I was in your situation, I would try whole fruit and some fun, fruit-based desserts or fruit-based snacks or meals to see if that is helpful. That's would be spot number one for me.
Okay, because it's interesting. I took the L-glutamate, it made me hungrier. So I'm like, that doesn't work.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
fascinating. Yeah, but
Thank you.
Google, as you know, there are so many different niches out there, for all these diets, and there's a niche inside a niche inside a niche. And if you want to, you can start Googling fruit-based recipes. Like there's a whole world of people who are very passionate about their, raw vegan diet or whatever. But then there's things like the fruit-based raw vegan, whatever.
Well, the challenge I have in Boston is we don't really have access to very good fruits.
Okay, so here's the deal.
At Whole Foods.
I'm so glad you asked this question. I'm so glad you did, because this is a topic I'm quite passionate about. Okay. Anybody who lives in a major city most likely can get some really good fruit if you take the time to go and start you got to look for your ethnic markets. You got to be going to the Mexican markets in town, the Chinese markets. It's these small little weird stores. It's not like the major grocery store. It's not Whole Foods. That's not where you're going to find the exotic fun things.
Yeah, because there's nothing at Whole Foods. I mean,
correct.
There's mangoes.
Yeah. There's great things there. There's a lot of good things there, but and I also will say, when you start going down this rabbit hole of all these fun, low-fat fruit-based desserts, that's what you should Google. And also, as a side note, you can ask ChatGPT to give you recipes. You're like, hey, I want a low-fat fruit-based chocolate cake recipe or something, and ChatGPT will come up with it. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Okay.
Okay, wow. But anyways, also things like carob powder. Or if you're okay with caffeine, you want to have some cacao, things like that that you can just order on Amazon, like some of these flavor agents that you can order on Amazon could add a lot of flavor to a sugar craving type of situation. But yeah, also summer's approaching, right? And so in Boston, you're going to have some good farmers market experiences. There's no question. I can't say I've been to markets there, but you should be able to get some really fun fruit in the summer.
Okay. All right. And you speak for other groups? Because I'd love to have you speak for our group. So
yeah, absolutely. Okay. You can reach out to our team. It's team@masteringdiabetes.org.
Okay, super. Thank you very much, Robby.
Cool. Yeah, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, JW. So how does Mastering Diabetes approach, how does that align with or differ from the dietary guidelines from major diabetes organizations such as the American Diabetic Association?
So, the major difference from our perspective is we don't put a cap on whole carbohydrate consumption, right? So, when I said that ratio, minimum 70%. So you go up to 75, you go 80, 85, up to 90 if you really wanted to. Whole Foods would, if you just ate fruits and greens, it'll be like 95.5. It could work. It might not be ideal for everybody, but you could potentially meet all your nutrition requirements in that situation. But the main thing is majority of the organizations are putting a cap on carbohydrate intake. And I would say that's the biggest thing for diabetes, right? We're helping people also really optimize their omega-6 to omega-3 ratio, right? So that's a big focus. Although I think that the truth is, when you look at dietary recommendations, almost any of them for some of these major organizations, they usually like they aren't that bad. If people actually followed these general recommendations, they would be far better off than what's going on in our population right now. So I don't really want to take any position of like, oh, like they have like the worst recommendations ever. It's not really the case. Like it's usually pretty sound, pretty solid. People just don't follow them. There's always, I obviously think there's room for improvement, but the biggest difference is the carbohydrate consumption.
Thank you. So we had a participant ask about L-glutamate. Now, what about supplements? Is that something that people should be concerned about? Is any sort of supplementation?
So we recommend people definitely work with their doctor on any nutrition deficiencies that they may be concerned with, that they currently have. So we do recommend B12 as a supplement for sure. And then when it comes to your omega-3 fatty acid status, we recommend you get tested. You can do a test through Omega Quant, see where you're at, and then with your medical professional, decide, is that something that we want to supplement with, or are we going to make lifestyle changes and see if we can optimize it ourselves? Is it already in a good place? The biggest problem people have there is they're just consuming too many omega-6 fats, and it's inhibiting their ability to do the conversion of the alpha linoleic acid that they're consuming. So that's a big area of concern. And, any other area, it's really individualized. We don't really have any like array of supplements. You should have all these different supplements. Everybody needs them. That's not our position. It should be very personalized. It should be intentional. It should be driven by some objective reasoning to do that. We'd rather people spend their time and money on high quality food and making meals that are delicious versus just taking supplements for the sake of taking supplements.
How does your program support individuals with prediabetes so they can avoid going to type 2 diabetes?
The best thing, I mean, prediabetes is a blessing in disguise. If you can catch your diabetes at that point and are here listening to this and have this information, like what a blessing, because you can turn things around quickly, and now's the time to do it. You are still producing plenty of insulin. If you continue to let things progress and insulin resistance to develop, you may lose your insulin production, right? Prediabetes means your pancreas is working extra hard to keep up, and it's currently not keeping up anymore. It was keeping up. It was working hard before you hit prediabetes, and your A1C was fine, and your fasting blood glucose was fine, but you gotten to the next level. It's working extra hard and it can't keep up. And if it keeps on working harder and harder, the pancreas can burn out. So we really made that distinction in our book about the difference between insulin-dependent type 2 diabetes and non-insulin dependent type 2. You don't want to get to that point of insulin-dependent type 2. So our program is really helpful in helping people address the root cause right now versus just trying to go and eat low carb and still be insulin resistant and still be, basically furthering insulin resistance by having high fat, high protein meals. We're doing the exact opposite. We're getting low protein, low fat, reversing insulin resistance, and getting prediabetes out of your life.
Does cooked or raw matter with regard to diabetes?
So we have a principle within our coaching program that one of our coaches, Kylie Buckner, created, and she called it ARAP, as raw as possible. And it helps people who are coming in super insulin resistant, who are looking to see some fast results, start normalizing blood glucose levels. We have found that eating more raw foods in your meals does help. It does help. That's not like a long-term strategy you have to implement. We're not telling people you should be you should go to be 100% raw. If you wanted to, you could, but it's not necessarily a key tenet of what we're doing. But we do see that, especially when you're insulin resistant, there is benefit to eating more raw foods.
And what are the most common misconceptions about diabetes you encounter, and how does your book aim to overcome those misconceptions?
Yeah, the number one misconception is that you should avoid carbs. And even within that world, the second one would be that all carbs are created equal, that the sugar in fruit is the same as the sugar in a pastry, or the sugars in, the baked potato you're consuming is the same as the sugars in, a cupcake. And it's just not the case, right? So those are two gigantic misconceptions around the world of diabetes and blood sugar. And I would say another big misconception is that insulin resistance is like that. Basically, eating a bunch of carbs is going to make you insulin resistant. Like you're gonna have elevated insulin levels because you ate the carbohydrates. It kind of ties back to the first point, but that's not the case. That's not what's happening. It's like the elevated insulin levels are a consequence of the high fat, high processed foods you were consuming prior. And that is a gigantic misconception. And I understand why people are confused, because they have a blood glucose meter and they can test themselves and they see that, wow, I ate the banana and my blood sugar went high. Like, how could it not be the banana? So I get why people are confused, but the banana is just the innocent bystander in the situation.
Great. So we've got a minute left. Real quickly, can you just speak on stress and how stress impacts blood sugar? Is that something we should be concerned about?
Yeah, definitely. And I would say, in my experience coaching people and having thousands of people run through our program with our team of coaches, we have an amazing team of coaches, as you all know: registered dietitians, certified diabetes care and education specialists, registered nurses, health coaches, weight loss experts. Like, it's incredible. But in our experience, stress leads to poor lifestyle choices, right? If you were super stressed and you somehow managed that decently well and stuck to a really healthy program, your blood glucose levels are probably going to be just fine. Your stress is definitely, it's a little bit of an issue, but I think it can be sort of overstated. It's stress in and of itself. It's more of what stress leads to, in my opinion. And so stress relief habits and managing stress better, to me, is more about how that's going to impact your decisions throughout the day and the weeks of a stressful event than it is about just what's happening metabolically inside your body.
So it sounds like it operates almost like a linchpin habit, where if you don't take care of your stress, your other healthy behaviors may falter.
Correct. 100%.
Perfect. So thank you so much, Robby, for the information that you shared with us today. If we could unmute the audience so they could share their appreciation for Robby, please.
Thank you.
Thank you,
That was
Robby.
wonderful.
Thank you, Robby. Thank you, Robby.
Enjoyed it so much.
Thank you.